Good Thursday, everybody. Sorry for late. We were in a holding pattern over, you know, I guess it was Las Vegas McCall Airport as we were waiting for our turn to land. But we're here now. We landed, and it's Amadeus and I. And Amadeus, getting closer to the big game coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. This is it. This is what we've all been waiting for, the Super Bowl. We found out pretty much 2 weeks ago who was going to be in it, and we've had to wait, but now we're here, and this is it. This is what it's all been for. This one game.
And everybody's excited. We are going to have some fun stuff on the prop side, and also on how much money is being spent tomorrow. We'll talk about the telecast and all of the things you can watch and how you can begin to get ready for it. And tonight, should you wish to watch, it is on CBS and also streamed on the NFL Network. They're going to go to the obviously entertaining celebration where we find out who the award winners are and the MVP and all that fun stuff. I really think that it's somewhat anticlimactic. I do think that there's that Lamar Jackson, even though he had that stumped his toe in the playoff game, is probably still going to be the MVP.
Yeah, most likely going to be the MVP. I haven't really checked on the lines on any of those. I don't know if you can still bet it, but yeah, I mean, he definitely has the stats to support him. He had a great season, so 100% it's deserving for sure.
And very hotly contested, but our quarterback of record, Baker Mayfield, is in the hunt for the comeback player of the year. And I think he's got a pretty good shot of that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think the favorite all year was Damar Hamlin for that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's pretty much locked up for Damar Hamlin at this point when you die on the field pretty much. And
show off. Yes,
was actually able to play this year. I mean, obviously, great things out of his camp. So glad to see that. But yeah, I mean, if we take Damar Hamlin out of the equation, then Baker or even Joe Flacco could have made a case for comeback player of the year.
That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. And look, I was just joking about Damar Hamlin coming back and being able to literally physically stand on a field, let alone play on it, is pretty amazing. Given everything that went into that situation. And so that it just goes to show you how important having good medical staff both on board on the team side as well as on board at the facility is so very important. And we're just happy that he pulled through, let alone that he actually got on the field and played again. So
yeah, it's great to see. But I will say, I mean, he's got it so locked up. I mean, it's kind of, and he definitely deserves it. The fact that what he had to go through and come back, but it almost seems like we need another category for the comeback player of the year, just because he's such a lock that we know he deserves it the most. He's gonna get it. But we should have, another one because what he did was remarkable and almost unprecedented, really, right? To die on the field like that. So definitely Damar Hamlin deserves a category of his own. But it would be nice to see who would win it out in the battle between Flacco and Baker Mayfield for the award.
Yeah, that definitely it. I was on a Zoom call today for with the CBS broadcast crew, which is Nance and Tony Romo and the gang. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow. But did you ever have one of those things where you're sitting there and you wish you asked the question that the person actually asked because it was so good? The question was asked by Dan Caesar of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He asked Jim Nance, Jim, when you and Tony go out to dinner, he says, yeah. He says, does Tony predict what you're going to eat before you eat it?
I don't think he's that good.
He said, no, he doesn't. He goes, because if he did, I'd hit him with a chair. He goes, So no, the answer is no. But I did find out that Tony's golf game. Nance told me when I was talking to him about he and Romo play golf a lot, and I asked him about it, and he said, "I love to play with Tony." But Jim, if Tony, he thinks Tony could actually make a run at a potential. They get the two amateurs, the champions of the year, get a shot at. They go to Augusta, to play, and he said he thought that if Tony worked hard enough, he could play in the national amateur tournament. Uh, and if he finished in the top two, he could perhaps go off and make it to the Masters. So that's pretty good as to how good Tony Romo is.
There you go. He's a big golfer.
Yeah, he is. And it's always good to have a second career if you can't handle it. So there you go with that. All right, let's get down to some fun. All right, prop bets. There we go. And the first one is Patrick Mahomes under 260.5 passing yards. That sounds like a little light, but then again, there have been games this year the Chiefs have won with not a lot of passing yards. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah. So this is a play I really like. Patrick Mahomes, as you said, it looks like 260.5 isn't enough. But if you actually look at the game logs for their last few games, he didn't hit that number in their last game against the Ravens, and
Right.
it's a number he stayed under over their last few games now. And I think a lot of that has to do two reasons. Is I think if the Chiefs want to be successful in this game, Isaiah Pacheco in the run game has to be a must for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't see, and especially with the receivers he has, it's going to be a lot of, they got to get the run game going with Pacheco and obviously Travis Kelce. But other than that, I don't see any of their wide receivers, ripping off big plays like that. So I can definitely see him staying under this number for that specific reason with the fact that and it's not really, like I said, it's not a number he's been hitting lately. I think the run game is going to be big for the Chiefs here, and they don't have a lot of threats on the outside anyway to make the big plays down the field.
The burners, yeah. If you look at that number, right, and you take the first half of the Ravens game, Mahomes made a living, 11 passes, as a matter of fact, to Kelce in just keeping the chains moving. So those, so it's like a 6-yard pass or an 8-yard pass or whatever. Even when he, dink and dunk his way down the field, which is kind of what Andy's doing these days with his offense. It's kind of like, the running game is obviously Isaiah Pacheco, but it's also check down and hit your backs and hit your tight ends coming out of the off the line. So
it almost reminds you of the Tom Brady offense, right?
Yeah, sure. With Gronk,
a lot of dink and dunks down the field.
Well, and you're looking up and you go, wait, he had 30 passes or 35 passes. Yeah, 35 yards, 30 passes, but 225 yards.
Yeah.
So it's possible that Mahomes, and the Chiefs could do quite well, and score 3 or 4 touchdowns and still keep that number under 260.5.
Yeah.
So,
and the other reason why I like it as well is because what we've seen from the Chiefs offense, we know the offense hasn't been great, but look at their last game against the Ravens. I think that really sums up their offense. Well, even if they get off to a hot start here and it looks like they're going to put up a lot of points, we've seen their offense die off in the second half lots of times. Mm-hmm. And luckily they have such a great defense that doesn't give up points in the second half. They haven't needed to score because, they go into halftime with the leads and the offense stalls, but the defense comes through with the win. So this is one where, even if, Mahomes, it looks like they're getting off to a hot start in the first half, I could see it dying down and just still, again, staying under this number, especially if they go into the second half with the lead, they're going to plan to run the ball more in the second half. So 100%, this is one I really like, under 260.5 passing yards for Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. Back to Patrick Mahomes. This one is under 26.5 rushing yards. This one will be hard for me, and I'll give you why, and then you can tell me what you think. It'd be hard for me because 26.5 yards looks like a pretty good number, right? But if Mahomes runs for 3 opportunities to just keep the play alive, right? To keep the down, stay behind, stay in front of the chains as opposed to us behind them. He could get to 26 pretty quick.
Yeah, I
Over
totally
4
agree with
quarters.
that. I totally agree with that,
Yeah.
but this is why I like the under 26.5 rushing
Okay.
yards for Patrick Mahomes. If you look at the game logs his last few games, he really hasn't been using his legs a lot. I know he's a
Okay.
guy that can run and he's very dynamic when he does run the ball, but really he's been sticking more to throwing the ball this year specifically, and he hasn't used his legs. And as you said, he's only really used his legs when he absolutely has to.
Mhm.
Even when he's scrambling, his eyes are always downfield to make some kind of pass, whether it's across the field, across his body. He'd rather do that than run for the yardage. So for that reason, I think it's really good to play the under 26.5 because he really hasn't hit this number. The other thing being, you're right, he could rip off, 3 big runs and get to 40 yards. That actually happened a few years. I'm not sure if it was last year or when they played the 49ers in the last Super Bowl, but it actually happened. And he ended up kneeling the ball and getting sacked so much to the point where he lost about 20 yards and finished a half point under the number. So this is a situation where I totally agree with you. He has the potential to rip off those big runs, but even if he did, he could take a sack or end up kneeling some of that away. Because if you look I looked at the game logs for that specific game, and he kneeled in those last 3 plays. He kneeled for -5, -3, and -7 yards, which is
Yeah,
quite a bit. And
he doesn't take a step back, he takes 5 yards back.
yeah, and so just in those 3 kneels, he lost 15
Yeah.
yards alone. And so you're sitting there, and he had close to 40, a little over 40 yards, and all of a sudden now you're a half point under your number. So this is one of those where I think
Good point. That's a good point.
I think the sacks and the kneeling could be a combating factor, but I also think they're going to rely a lot on Pacheco here to run the ball. And when he does have to scramble, I think he's going to continue to be looking for Kelsey or someone to break off a play downfield.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Mahomes, at least in the playoffs this time around, okay, Buffalo and the Ravens neither spied him. There wasn't any meets him. I mean, he was looking for Pacheco, or he's looking for his a number of different wide receivers. So he really wasn't looking, like you say, to run. He only ran when he absolutely positively had to. So I don't know. It's a sucker looking bet, I guess, to me, from thinking, he only has to make a couple of runs. But your point about him getting sacked and being vulnerable to even just taking the knee can take you out of that 26.5 pretty quick. Speaking of running, here's a guy who runs. He runs like he's mad at somebody, so they say. Isaiah Pacheco, over 67.5 yards.
Yeah, so part of the reason why I like this one is part of the reason why I liked Mahomes is under, and I for the passing and the rushing, because again, I think this is a game we saw. Everybody was questioning, well, how are they going to run on the Ravens defense? They're going to need to run the ball to be successful. Well, they ran the ball very successfully, and I think that's going to be part of the game plan again here. I think Pacheco is going to get a ton of carries in this game. The 49ers definitely showed in their last game against the Lions and even against the Packers that they can have trouble stopping the run sometimes. So I think we're going to see Pacheco, and really, even against the Ravens last week and in these playoff games, he's been rushing for more than this number. He's even hit close to 100 in a few of their last few games. So I definitely like Pacheco on the over rushing yards. I think he's going to be a big part of this Kansas City game plan.
Well, the Niners defense is really, you got 2 world-class edge rushers and some solid linebacking. So, we saw that the center of that line was pretty much exposed in the game with the Lions. So certainly Pacheco could get 65.5 yards without too much trouble, I would think. And because if you figure that the 49ers are going to try to blitz and try to do stuff using Nick Bosa and Chase Young. Maybe they'll go with a either a safety or a cover zero. To be honest with you, I would never go cover zero with Mahomes. That just you're basically asking for him to find somebody. But they may, and so up the middle, if Pacheco stays in that kind of thing between the tackles, 100 yards is something I think they can get.
Yeah, and the other thing that factors into that as well is, there's three ways this game could go.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers could blow them out from the start. The
Right.
Chiefs could blow them out from the start, or it could be a close game. Well, in two of those scenarios, let's say the Chiefs blow them out from the start, or it's a close game, the Chiefs are going to be running the ball with a lead well into the second half, or if it's a close game, they're not going to feel the need to abandon the run game. Only in the scenario where the 49ers are blowing them out do they abandon the run game. And personally, I don't think it's going to be a blowout for either side in this game. The way the two defenses have played, I think it's going to be a much closer game in that respect. And I would actually even lean to the under versus the over in this game, because I think defense is going to be king here.
I'm going to say something that might, every day I say something that might upset somebody, so why now? I don't think that this is going to be a high-scoring game, because if you look at what happened during the course of the season, these have been two offenses that have been very good at bleeding the clock and driving the ball down the field, and they're not the quick hit touchdown machines that they've played against. I mean, can they do that? Yeah, of course they can. They've got both of them have the talent to do it, but they haven't. Kyle Shanahan all season long has liked to just grind it out, bleed the clock, and win. And the same Andy has changed his mindset to what his personnel has. So you got Spagnuolo, who's running the defense for the Chiefs. He's known on, to mix things up. So I agree. I don't see this being, I see it being a close game. I don't see it particularly being a high scoring game, because these two particular teams this season, not in past, but this season, have seemed to play a more control game.
Yeah, and that's the big thing here, right? It's a great point to make with the offenses, because everybody knows the 49ers as, one of the best running backs in the league. Christian McCaffrey. They're going to find ways. They'd love to run the ball, and Kyle Shanahan loves to scheme. But you don't really think of the Chiefs as a running team. Well, this year they've been a running team because they don't have the talent in the receiving position other than Travis Kelce out there. They don't really have a lot of talent at the wideout position. So they're not getting the big plays downfield that they used to get with guys like Hill and some of the other stars they've had. So this is definitely one where, I don't think people realize they've been running the ball more. The same way Buffalo was a heavy running team this year, which I don't think a lot of people paid too much attention to in the public eye. Because again, you think like, oh, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. But yeah, Patrick Mahomes is great, and he's got a great arm. But he doesn't have the talent at the receiver position this year, and it's reflected in the way Reed has called the game. So that's a big reason why it all comes together. Big reason why I like Mahomes is under in the passing and the rushing, because I think he's really going to rely on the running games there. And I'll even give you, you mentioned on why both offenses, right? It can be a close game in that sense. Well, I'll give you the flip side of the equation. We've seen it with both these defenses, specifically last week, where, we could have a high scoring game in the first half, but then both just shut down the other team in the second half. So we could have that situation where, maybe it's 14-14 going into halftime and the game ends 17-14.
And adjustments. They make adjustments. The other thing too, we talked about this, Kyle Juszczyk, some of these guys, they've gotten creative. Both Kyle and Andy have gotten creative in utilizing personnel in groups that seem to, seem to be a little bit funky as to why are they there, but they do. Uh, and here's another stat, and I'm, you take them for what they're worth. Um, Kansas City led the AFC this year in drop passes. So, if you're if you're if you're Patrick Mahomes and you air one out and the guy just flat drops it, you're gonna take a second thought about why did I throw that ball 60 yards and that fool just couldn't catch it? I hit him between the 8 and the 5. What's his problem? So, quarterbacks are human beings. They'll throw the thing around there, but if you don't catch it, man, they'll find somebody else in a heartbeat to get that ball to.
And just to further your point, Jim, who did the Chiefs just activate off the injured reserve for this game? Good old Butterfingers Kadarius Toney. So, he's going to be looking to prove that he can catch the ball, but we'll see how often Mahomes looks his way with his history this year.
Well, if Toney catches the ball, if this is the game where he gets it, then good on him. Because the guy is a legit star.
Oh, he's talented. He's talented.
Catch the ball.
He's just, and it all started from that Lions game at the beginning of the season. He's just having a bad year, and sometimes it happens, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to knock the guy because I agree with you. I think he's very talented and he has the potential to be a great wide receiver. But this year's just not his year, and we're gonna make fun of him for the drops until he proves he can catch the ball.
And he has the speed, he has everything. The problem with them is that at the end of the day, right, going all the way back to when he played at the University of Florida, the one thing that the coaches at Florida kept driving into his head is catch then run. Catch then run. Don't run before you catch the ball. And again, talented guy, big guy too, big receiver for for Kansas City. He could, for all we know, he could be the MVP of the Super Bowl. All right, but at the end of it, but right now, he better get those Velcro hands on because that's the key to what has happened this year to the Chiefs. So many drop balls by so many very talented receivers. I mean, it's not like these guys aren't good.
Yeah, and like I said, sometimes it's just not your year, and we're gonna make fun of you for dropping the balls when it's not your year. But next year you could come back and catch every pass you get, right? So that's all it is. It's just it's been an unlucky year for their receivers and their hand-eye coordination.
Great line about we were talking about Brady a couple of minutes ago. Great line about Brady from a couple of his wide receivers, over the years. And they said if you drop a pass from Tom Brady early in the game, you probably won't see that ball until the fourth quarter. He's not coming back to you. He's just, next up.
It's
basically.
True. I've seen it happen in games where someone drops the ball early and their next catch is in the fourth quarter.
Right. If they're lucky. Yeah. So yeah, it's
and that's probably how it'll be with Toney and Mahomes. He'll give him one shot in the first quarter. You don't catch that ball, don't expect me to look at you for the next 3 quarters.
He'll look at Andy and go, next, next man up. Don't send me this guy. So there you go with that. All right, here's another prop bet for us. Freddie Warner over 5 tackles. It's not an unreasonable thing.
Yeah, so I love me some defense, so it wouldn't be right to not put some defensive props in because I feel like the defensive props don't get played as much as the offensive props. Everybody wants to bet, the touchdown score. And if you notice, I kind of stayed off the touchdown score here because there's so much talent on both teams, but I'm with you. I think it's maybe a more defensive, low-scoring game. So if there's only going to be 1 or 2 touchdowns for either side, don't love the anytime touchdown score in this particular game.
Right.
But I'm loving this Fred Warner over 5 tackles. And if you look, Fred Warner's been the best defensive player for the 49ers. I know, Dre Greenlaw came up clutch in the Packers game, and we've had some other guys come up with some clutch moments, but Fred Warner's been the consistency in this Niners defense. He's leading the team in tackles in the playoffs. I think one of the games he had 9 solo tackles alone. So this is a guy where he's getting involved, and I think his position is going to help him here too, because he's a linebacker. He's going to get a lot of work in the run game trying to stop Pacheco, but he might also be the guy covering Travis Kelce in the pass game. So I can see he's definitely going to have to be a factor with tackling here, and he's been having a great playoff. So I'm gonna ride the hot tackler for the 49ers. I think 5, frankly, is too low for Fred Warner. I think you can at least get to 7 here.
Well, Fred Warner's one of those guys that can go sideline to sideline. There aren't that many guys that can do sideline to sideline. That's number one. Number two, to your point on tackles, the league has become a league where linebackers and safeties are leading the teams in tackles. And in large part, that's because we talked about it earlier. San Francisco's got 2 world-class, edge rushers, right? You're not going to try to run around Chase Young. You're not going to try to run around Nick Bosa because you're not going to be able to do it. So why not try up, between the tackles? And when you go between the tackles, you're going to meet Fred Warner on the way to the next level. So 4 yards down the field, that Fred Warner's going to get you and not let you go. I think that's definitely a fair. I'm surprised it's a number. I would have thought it might have been a little higher than that. He's had some games in this season where he's gotten into double-digit tackles.
Yeah, like I said, I think it was the Packers game. He had 9 solo tackles in that one, and he had 5 assists too. So he's definitely a guy that's going to be involved. And I think because of his position, the way he'll have to, I think Pacheco is going to be, obviously we've talked about how the run game is going to be important for Kansas City. Yeah. I think Pacheco is going to be a big factor, which means Fred Warner's got to get involved stopping him. And obviously their only real weapon in the passing game right now is Travis Kelce, which is someone Fred Warner's going to have to get involved covering. So
he's got Pacheco and Kelce. So pick your poison in that routine. So here's another outstanding defensive player, L'Jarius Sneed, over 3. That seems like a good bet too.
Yeah, this is another one. I think it's too low. L'Jarius Sneed, he's actually had 3 or more tackles in every playoff game. They've played 3 this season, and all 3 he had 3 or more. He actually, I think only one he actually had 3 in. The others he had 4 or more in. So and obviously L'Jarius Sneed, he's the star of this, or one of the stars anyway. I know we talk a lot about Chris Jones, but this guy's the star of the secondary for these Chiefs. And L'Jarius Sneed, I think, is going to be a big factor because of all the weapons that the 49ers have on the outside, right? Obviously, we can talk about Christian McCaffrey and the run game, but where they did damage against the Lions and the Packers was in the passing game. And that's where I think I know they have a great secondary, the Chiefs, but I think the 49ers are going to find some success in the passing game just out of the sheer weapons they have. You can't cover everybody. And I think when they do catch a ball, L'Jarius Sneed's going to be the one there to make the tackle, specifically because I think he'll probably be covering Deebo Samuel quite a bit in this game. Right. And I did see a quote from their pass game against the Lions when they were down at halftime, and it really made me like this even more, just because I already liked the play, but it gave me some assurance, because what I read basically was Deebo Samuel at halftime against the Lions was moping in the dressing room a bit. He was in the locker room. Sorry, he was kind of just like slouched down, sitting there. And apparently John Lynch came all the way down from the owner's box, or wherever he was.
General manager,
the general manager box. But I'm sure they're all in the same area there. But he came down into the locker room and he asked Deebo, what's up? And apparently Deebo just looked at him and said, "Tell Kyle to get me the ball." So, Debo wants the ball. I know we talk a lot about him as a decoy and stuff and how he
Mhm.
opens up a lot of the other weapons on the team, but he wants the ball himself. And I think he's going to have to be a big factor in this game. So whether it's, maybe a short crossing route or something where you just get the ball to him quickly and he tries to get some yards after the catch, I think Snead's going to be the one who's got to make that tackle.
Bubble screens, yeah. John Lynch also said on the other side of it, after the game, that they asked him some of the guys who he focuses on, and again, John's not coaching the team, but when you're a Hall of Fame player like John is, you tend to get questions. And he said that, I mean, he didn't even beat around the bush. The first name out of his mouth was L'Jarius Sneed. He goes, he is able to cover one side of the field and you don't have to even worry about the other side. The other side can be, whatever. And there's only been a few guys that can do that, Dion being one of them. So when you put when John Lynch speaks your name in reverend tones, that gives you an idea how good the guy is. Because he played the position.
Yeah, and it's not just going to be Debo, right? I use Debo as an example because he's the start, but as you said, he's going to be covering that whole side of the field, and I think L'Jarius Sneed, when a 49ers receiver gets the ball in his hands and is trying to get those yards after the catch, that's where I think Sneed's going to have to come in and make the tackle, and frankly, I think 3 is just too low.
I'm going to go one further for you, okay? I predict L'Jarius Sneed gets a punch out. I think he's going to punch a ball out and cause a fumble.
Yeah, he definitely could.
He's very good at that.
Yeah, we've seen it a few times with the Chiefs. Obviously, they forced that fumble at the goal line, and I think they did it in the Buffalo game too. Obviously, it wasn't on the goal line for the touchback, but it was a very key play that they needed, and they had a chance, which the offense then blew with a chance to go by 2 scores.
We won't be bringing that up. Yeah, okay.
But definitely, sticking to the defense, absolutely. So L'Jarius Sneed is going to be a factor in this game.
Well, that is a Spagnuolo, calling card. Is he's got guys punching things out of practice. So it's like I'm certain that on the way into the locker room, if whoever's holding the ball, if they're an offensive player, somebody from Kansas City's defense smacks it away from them. So just to keep in practice. So yeah, that's something to look forward to. Anyway, let's move on to the start of the game, which is the coin toss and heads.
Yeah, so I'm going with heads on this one, and I know tails has been more apparent over the last last 20 years or so. I would say that there's definitely been more tails, but I like the heads because last year it was tails, but it's been heads 2 of the last 3 seasons. So I'm going with and in the past when it has been heads, it tends to come in chunks, like 4 of the 5 were heads in that 5-year span. So I'm just gonna go with the fact that it was tails last year. We're gonna bounce back to heads. It's been heads more recent than not. So I'm gonna just take the chance on the heads here. One thing though that I did find very interesting when I was looking into this, and I was looking for the prop on it, and I don't have it at the time. Maybe I'll have a number on it, but if somebody out there can find the prop, I do recommend playing it. One thing I noticed is that only once in the last 9 straight Super Bowls has the team that won the coin toss won the actual Super Bowl. And it happened last year when the Kansas City Chiefs won the coin toss and went on to win the Super Bowl. Wow. The previous 8 straight Super Bowls, the team that won the coin toss went on to lose. And it's not just, once in the last 9 Super Bowls. This has actually been something that has happened 6 times over the last 20 Super Bowls. Only 6 times the team that has won the coin toss has gone on to win the Super Bowl. So 14 other times of the last 20 years, we've had the team that loses the coin toss actually goes on to win the Super Bowl. So I was looking for the prop, wasn't able to find it or a line on it, but I do recommend, if you can find it, playing the team to win the coin toss loses the Super Bowl, or vice versa, where the team that loses coin toss wins the Super Bowl, however they offer it to you. But I do recommend taking that.
Take that one. See, we got a comment here. It's Foxy. I'm going to guess it's soccer. No? Okay. I hope whoever wins the Super Bowl gets the United States champion rather than the world champions. Okay.
Well,
it's a different kind of Super Bowl, Foxy. Yeah.
It is something, it's funny because all the sports leagues in North America do that, where it's like world champions with the basketball and the baseball. But I mean, Foxy has a point where, basketball is popular in other countries. Maybe you're not, right? They play a Champions League to decide that in Europe with FIBA. The North Americans don't really partake, so maybe we need to have that. Maybe we need our own version of like CONMEBOL, UEFA, Champions League, club world champions here. So that might be something to consider. I will say this: football, I think, is the one sport that they can call themselves world champions, but not for long. With flag football now being in the Olympics, and more countries are going to start learning how to play the game and take it up at the flag level at least. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you still have the best players on the planet in the sport, but maybe 30 years down the line, another country has a strong football team. So
we'll see. And in fairness too, the late David Stern, who was the commissioner of the NBA for so many years, he was a very big proponent of FIBA, and people ask him if he would like a World Cup type tournament, and David was down with it. He said, "Sure, why not?" He said, "We can have some fun doing it," and that was the whole concept of the Dream Team, was to promote basketball around the world. And other than soccer, if you go travel from Europe, all around Europe and Asia, you can find in any sporting goods store an NBA jersey. You're not going to be able to find an NFL football jersey, but you'll find an NBA jersey just as much as you'll find, some of the top soccer leagues, soccer teams in leagues from around the world in there too. So NBA has done what it can, and I think in future years we probably will see some NBA action with Europe and in a world championship type setting that's not kind of Olympic-esque, which is what they're doing right now. So yeah,
especially when look at your star players, right? Giannis is from Greece.
Sure.
You got Luka from a team in Spain. Jokic is Serbian. And just, there's and it's not just them, right? Those are examples, but there's a ton of Serbians in the league. There's a ton of these players from Europe that came over. So this is something where 100% I would like to see the NBA in a Champions League style play some of the better teams in other continents, and let's see let's find out who is the true world champions.
Right. And don't forget, there are tons and tons of college players from all over the world that play in the U.S. in college. So there's that too. So absolutely, 100%. All right, moving on. Gatorade, color blue plus 200, orange 400. Just for the record, blue's for, not that it means anything. Blue is the best-selling Gatorade color. Don't ask me why.
It tends to be the one that most people prefer, blue. Most people I talk to, when you ask their favorite Gatorade flavor,
doesn't taste any different.
They'll say blue though. They'll say blue, even though that's the one. I know red is fruit punch. I know what the orange and the yellow is, but blue is the one I'm not 100% sure what the exact flavor is. Supposed to be some kind of berry, but it's not really blueberry.
It's not blueberry.
But so I like blue and orange. I like two here, and I think it's important to take into account. It's all dependent on what team you think is going to win the Super Bowl.
Right.
I'm not going to say who I think is going to win the Super Bowl. If you want to find out, you can get my premium play on that. I have it posted already. But I think blue and orange are two solid choices just because blue and orange have been the most popular over the last since 2010. Orange has been the most popular with I think five times since 2010 that it's been orange, but blue specifically has been four times in the last 9 years, I believe, and it's actually been twice in the last three seasons. The
They
Tampa Bay
don't.
Bucks.
Those two colors don't represent the teams, right? They just represent the Gatorade color.
Yeah, they just represent the Gatorade color, and so blue has actually won, two of the last three seasons with the Tom Brady Bucks when they won had blue, as well as the LA Rams had blue. Now I was looking
Color
into it.
coordinating on that side, yes.
There has been a bit of a correlation sometimes between the color of the Gatorade and the team that the team's color or of the uniform or logo, but it actually plays more into effect in the odds actually. So that's why you see like red pink is kind of the favorite. Blue is also one of the I think blue is the favorite right now because as you said, it is the most popular, the best seller for colors. But yeah, like so last year is an example where the color didn't correlate with the team that won. Obviously, the Chiefs won, and it was purple. I can't confirm; it wasn't clear. It was purple. There has been a few times where it's been clear, but those were in the early 2000s, and there hasn't really been one since before 2010. So I think clear is kind of out of the equation. I think those days are long gone. There's also been a few where there's been no Gatorade dump at all in the last since 2000, and the only times, I kid you not, the only times that it's happened like three times. All three times were the Bill Belichick coached New England Patriots. And the other was, I think, the Giants when they beat the Patriots. So that would have been what, Tom Coughlin. And that might have been like, Bill saying, if you dump something on me, then, don't show up. Don't show up to the Super Bowl parade.
I obviously I don't know Belichick that well, but Tom Coughlin I do. He probably would have taken the Gatorade bucket and rang somebody over the head with it. So they knew. Maybe Strahan could have gotten away with that. He might have been able to get away with it, but
only he would have to do it by himself.
And I'm trying to think who else might. Yeah, no, it would have to have been Strahan. He would have gotten away with it, but I don't know.
But so that's the no, I was sorry. Yeah, it's just that's the recency stuff with it.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I think there's a lot of value on orange specifically, so obviously blue is the favorite. Blue's been more apparent the last 3 years, but part of the reason why I think orange has some value here at plus 400 is just because obviously orange has been the most popular since 2010 with 5 appearances, but with orange, the Chiefs have actually used orange before. And it was when they beat the 49ers in 2020 in that Super Bowl. So my reasoning for liking the value on the orange is if you think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl and you're going to bet the color according to that, orange is a great bet for the Chiefs because I look at it like a lot of these players are superstitious. Look at the playoff beards. They won't even shave when they get to playoffs. Right. So it's not too far to think that the Chiefs would look at it like, hey, our Gatorade was orange when we beat them 4 years ago in the Super Bowl. Let's not mess up that mojo. We'll just keep it orange again. And so that's why I actually think orange has a much better chance than purple for the Chiefs specifically. And then I think blue is more of a neutral color that either team really could use.
Right. Well, look, you're right. Superstition plays a big role in all of this. All right, let's have a little fun capping off this afternoon with Wallet Hub, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff from Wallet Hub. We'll save it for tomorrow, but we'll do this today, and that is pencils up. Ready? Top 5 football cities in the United States according to wallet hub. Now, what's the criteria here? Okay, the criteria is that these 5 cities spend per capita the largest amount of money on NFL tickets, paraphernalia, travel, the whole gambit. Okay, so we're talking jerseys, we're talking, anything having to do with the NFL. These 5 cities are the top of the list. So I don't think you're going to be surprised, but maybe perhaps you'll be surprised in the order, but I don't think you'll be surprised by the teams. Okay, so your guesses are ready. Put your pencils down, and here's the 5 cities. Top of the list, the Pittsburgh Steelers, number 1 on that list. Not surprising. Dallas, not surprising. Green Bay, not surprising. LA, a little surprising to me. And Boston, not surprising either. So there's your 5 cities where they pay, they spend a lot of money on their teams. And if you've been to Pittsburgh, or if you've been to anywhere where the Pittsburgh has a bar, which, by the way, happens to be pretty much everywhere, including Paris, Tokyo, you find them all over the place. So Pittsburgh's number 1. Dallas, for many years, America's team. Green Bay always has a good following. LA, again, a little surprising to me because there were teams out of LA for a number of years. And number 5, Boston, of course, that's the whole New England area.
LA is this? Is this the Rams or just the?
It's just LA. They were very generic on that.
Chargers included.
I guess.
Okay, so that's times 2 then. You got two.
Right.
You
got 2 franchises.
Probably some Oakland fans contributing.
I would say Oakland more than San Diego. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll put an asterisk on LA then.
Right. LA for it went out when. Remember when they were building SoFi and they were playing some of their games over at the in Carson at the soccer stadium? There were times when Pittsburgh went out there, Dallas went out there, and Green Bay went out there, that the poor Chargers were like the home. They were the visitors. There's like
happened a few times in SoFi this year.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to mention it, but yeah, you're right. I think that's going to change with
Harbaugh.
Yeah, but
all the Charger fans coming out of the woodwork now. No, I've always been a Charger fan.
Yeah, I love that powder blue.
I go back to the days of Phillip Rivers.
Now you're probably there you go. Or John Hadle, going way back. Yeah. All right, so
that's the joke.
That's right.
It's all. I know Phillip Rivers, right? The Chargers,
right? 90 miles away. All right, so. That's the top 5. Now you're probably saying to yourself, wait a minute. San Francisco and Kansas City, where are they? Well, let me help you out. Here you go. San Francisco is 9th on that list. And Kansas City is 10th.
Now, is that with the $331 million Taylor Swift injection that they got this year?
No, that's not. Prior to Taylor. I'm a little surprised here, but pre-Taylor. I'm a little surprised here. I would have thought Kansas City would have been further up the path. It's also surprising. San Francisco, the Bay Area, is a good sports city. But, when you think they're right, San Francisco, the 49ers have a really big following out there that goes all the way up the coast to Oregon and even down the coast to Mexico. So San Francisco has definitely a strong following out there, followed by the Giants and the Warriors probably are tied in that regard. Don't ask me about your Sharks. I have no idea where they are in that pecking order.
They technically they're like at the bottom of the Bay, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't want to say it. It's not my job to say so. But Kansas City, I'm a little surprised, and I'll tell you why. Kansas City's a team where they draw from 7 states. So I would have thought maybe, they were up there a little higher on the group than 10.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas City is technically a team for 2 states, right? Because it's Kansas and Missouri, obviously, but they play in Missouri. So
right, the Kansas City, Kansas doesn't. If you go there for a game, you're not going to see them. They're
Not
not
gonna
there.
gonna see. There's
They're
no
not
Arrowhead.
there. Yes. Well, I
Yeah,
mean, you're
I
talking.
remember.
Go ahead.
I was no. I was just gonna say. I saw like a tweet earlier this week about how over 90% of the sports bets in the state of Kansas were
Hmm.
on the Chiefs, right? Money line and the
Doesn't surprise
spread,
me.
over 90% in just in that state alone. And I was looking
Mhm.
at it, I was like, well, they don't actually play in Kansas. So why don't you show me the Missouri stats?
Don't tell them that. Okay. They play literally technically for those of you. It's across the river from Kansas. All right.
Yeah.
So you cross the river, you're in Kansas. But it's out where it's called the Harry S. Truman Sports Complex. I still think one of the best, the Kauffman Stadium, one of the most entertaining places to watch a baseball game is very cool. Arrowhead is they're crazy out there. It's fun. It's a very fun, very nice crowd, very polite crowd, but very loud and very chief based crowd. But they've got 5 or 6 states that are right around there that circle that area that, you cannot go without seeing Chiefs memorabilia everywhere. And, so, yeah, I mean, I would have thought they'd have been up a little higher on that list. And perhaps next year, as you said, with the Kelsey bump, they can move forward up that list pretty quick, from that standpoint. But, having a little fun with, our friends from Wallet Hub. We've got some stuff we'll show you tomorrow, along with some more prop bets and some other fun things that we'll figure out. One of the things I'm trying to get, I remember when you were just talking about the coin toss, the Super Bowl coin that they toss. I don't know. Some people may have seen it before. Some people may not care. I tend to enjoy it because what on one side is the Lombardi Trophy, so it's the Super Bowl trophy on one side. That is considered heads. The tails portion of the coin is the skyline, again with the Super Bowl trophy on it, the Lombardi Trophy on it, in the middle of all that. Okay. So some of these things have been really, very creative. The skylines have been quite attractive. Unless you and I've been to Vegas a lot, I don't know a sky. I don't know. I've never seen a skyline in Vegas. I've seen the Strip, but
It's just
is
it's
there a
just gonna
skyline
be
there?
it's just gonna be the sphere with the
Yeah.
Lombardi trophy like
Hey, that'd
tiny
be
in the
cool with
middle of
me.
it.
That would be cool with me. That's a very cool thing, the Sphere.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Not many things have the people at MSG done well. That was one of them. So yeah, very cool. But yeah, we'll see if I can find it. I'll grab a picture of that. We can take a look at the heads and the tails of the coins that they're going to be using at the Super Bowl this week. Well, you want a Super Bowl prediction? You want a chance to win? Mr. Amadeus, go for it, my friend. Tell them where to get it.
Yeah, make sure you check out my premium picks at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. I got a ton of plays up for today. I got 8 college basketball plays, including 2 game of the years, one in the Atlantic Sun Conference and one in the CAA. Make sure you go check that out. Coming off a 3-3 day in college basketball, but I'm 12-6 in Saturday, and I've cashed 2 game of the years the last 2 days. Had the Big South game of the year with UNC Asheville yesterday, and my AAC game of the year the other day with good old South Florida. I also have a free play on North Florida tonight, so you can there's the free play for college basketball tonight. North Florida, give some love to the Northern Floridas too, but. Yeah, and I got one NBA play. I'm coming off an NBA loss last night, but I've been hot. I'm on a 49-31 run in NBA, so make sure you go check that out. And as I mentioned before, you can also get my Super Bowl pick for Sunday.
The Foxy was talking about the World Cup, Club World Cup. Interesting to see NBA teams in hostile atmospheres in Serbia and Greece. Baseball has um, their World Baseball Classic, which Japan won with Ichiro, not Ichiro. We're going way back, with Otani. So yeah, I mean they have a world tournament, and not all of the best players play. at that. So, but that's okay. It's a fun thing. And he also thought that Philadelphia was going to win this year, and so did a lot of Philadelphia people. You're not alone, Foxy, when it comes to thinking that Philadelphia was going to be part of that fun stuff. Unfortunately for them, it didn't happen that way. So anyway, all right. Well, we will be back tomorrow with all kinds of fun final thoughts on Super Bowl, and there's tonight, as I said, if you want to see who wins the awards ceremony, it's on 8 o'clock Eastern time on CBS, can be streamed on Paramount Plus, and so you can check that all out. It's also going to be, if you choose to watch it, you can also watch it on the NFL Network. Okay. All right, gang. So until tomorrow, same time, around 2 o'clock, we will be back. For Amedeus, I'm Jim. Don't forget to check the show box below for Amadeus's stuff. You'll appreciate it. I guarantee you. All right. Till tomorrow, gang. Take care.